stage door, what I see it as is following your passions when the world is bringing you down, and keeping on the path that you have always wanted to do and not giving up. And I think the reason Andy picked this show was because we all needed that little push after March happened and everything felt like it just disintegrated. The fact that we can pull through and we're doing a full play in the middle of a pandemic, and we are here and following our passions and not giving up. Like, that's a big thing, is don't give up on what you love and care about.
As it was cast, we had this fear, I think, of Stage Door getting canceled again, because we had 2 shows get canceled in the past, and so we were all, I think at first it took a bit to get back into the rhythm of rehearsal. We had to keep pressing on and kind of get back in the groove of things, and once we were, it kind of was a slippery slope to where we are now. And that was really nice, getting past the point where we didn't have to be scared. We knew we were for sure doing it and we could rehearse with all our might and it wouldn't be wasted.
With Matilda and our other shows, I was an ASM for Peter, but that was canceled because of COVID. It's completely different in every single way. I have to make sure I have a complete accurate attendance of everyone was here and where they sat, and in case anything happens, we have understudies. We don't really do that. So we have understudies because we have had 2 people that have had COVID, a couple of people have been quarantined, I've been quarantined. I think our very first rehearsal I was quarantined. So I had to have my ASMs run that. So that's been hard. Every day I take temperatures and I have to sprint around and get everyone while they're in the dressing rooms and in here and setting their props. So it's been so hard, but so worth it at the same time. I feel a lot safer with our cast, knowing that we're not gonna get as sick. You don't have to do the honey and lemon water to keep you healthy.
I was mostly in quarantine most of the summer. I just stayed home. I was with my family. And so I hadn't seen most people since March 13th, And I came back to school with this hope. I was it's gonna be a hopeful year. Look on the positive side of everything. Let's make the best of every day. Let's make the most of every rehearsal. And if it gets taken away, we learned, we grew. And that was what I had in my mind the entire time, was as long as we gain something from this, it will all work out. I remember on March 13th, everyone was in rehearsal for Peter and the Starcatcher, and that day everybody said what they loved about the person next to them. And that was a great way to end that season, just by the unity of everyone and the fact that everybody is there for you. And so it's just coming in with that hope. That was what got me through the trying to get back into the swing and all that. And yeah.
I play Miss Orcutt, and she owns the house that the play takes place in, and she's kind of just the motherly figure to the rest of the characters in the show. She's really funny, and she's kind of got some sass too, because she used to be an actress as well. For this role, it's a lot of she does a lot of explaining. She explains kind of the set and where everything is. She goes through and talks about each character a lot. I also have never played an old person before, so that was kind of difficult to get into, but yeah.
So my character Terry, I love her so much because I feel like she's a big light to all of the other characters, and she's the one who makes sure everyone feels included, and she's just the one that everyone knows that they can go to, and I just feel like she's a great role model for people, and I really love that about her. There was a lot of struggle for people trying to find their passions during COVID and everything, because everything was being blocked off and no one was able to do their things. And so this show is a great reminder that despite what life brings you and the trials that come, your passions are what drive you, and they're the most important things out of anything.
My character is a producer, and he used to be in the theater and now he's in film. And so he loves the theater more than anything. It's his passion, but Hollywood is the big money. It's where the future is. So he can't do it anymore sustainably. And so he goes into film, but he doesn't love it. And so he's always getting these theater girls, these actresses in New York and recruiting them to be in Hollywood. And that's who Jean is. He recruits her and she becomes this Hollywood star. But Terry ends up asking him what he thinks she really should do. And he says, be in the theater, because theater is real art and he loves it. Sometimes you want to say something, but it's your job, or it's just not polite, or it's not socially acceptable to say it, so you just kind of have to bite your tongue and sit back and do your job, or say what you need to say. And I think a lot of this year we've been learning to like say what we actually mean. So it was interesting to see the difference between when Kingsley is all business and he really wants to get these girls for the film and he needs it for his job, and when he talks to Terry and he is open and he shares his love for theater with her and just is able to express what he really thinks.
It's been really hard. At the beginning, it was boring and it was slow and it was dry. Like if you look even during the Sunday morning scene when all the girls are here, it has to be, or everyone's bored. So the way that we kind of got into that is there was a day where everyone was just so miserable and having an awful time, so we switched the whole cast. Everyone played different roles and we had like 1 minute to do a scene, and that kind of finally got everyone to like, oh, this is fun, this is funny, this is a show people are gonna laugh at. It's not this super boring, serious scene. So I think that's kind of how we finally got them to see that.
For me, it's just kind of like I go over my lines first and I make sure those are all good, and then I just go through kind of what happens in that scene and go through like what I feel about everything that happens, and then I just try to get in the zone and focus on what's going on stage right now and what's going to happen. We did a run and Aaliyah ran in through the door, the first scene, and she threw her coat on the coat rack and it like toppled over, the top of it, they like fell apart. And so it was hard because I was like, oh, I got to make sure the scene keeps going. So I like ran over and I was like, Frank will fix it. Like I just kind of came up with that on the spot. So kind of just going with the flow. You have to be looking ahead, but also be like in the moment. Because a lot of the times everyone's talking all at once too. Like there's a lot of moments on stage where everyone is saying something all at once. And that's really fun because then you can kind of like listen in on different people's conversations and have your own side conversations. It's super good for character development and acting all that stuff out.
I mean, we have a lot of outspoken people in our world that say what they say, but I think the majority of us, 95% of us, still just sit and we bite our tongues and we don't do what we love. We do what will be sustainable, or what our family wants us to do, or our parents, or our kids or our spouses. So I think it's important for people to watch this and see that you matter. What you want is important. It's so important. And I think that's what this play is all about.
We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, and our show was canceled a few weeks ago, and so we keep going through these processes of, is it happening, is it not happening? And now it's happening, and we're actually doing it. And so I feel like when we come on stage, we give it everything we have because we don't know what's happening tomorrow, and this could be our last time on stage. And so I feel like if people were to come and see that, they would see very passionate people giving it their all because it's what we love to do.
My whole life I've tended to live in the past or look too far into the future. And at the beginning of quarantine, I definitely was like scared of the future. I was like, I'm a senior next year. I don't know what's gonna happen. My life needs to get back together. And because I went through that, I realized that these relationships I have now in high school aren't gonna last forever. We're all gonna go our separate ways in May, and that's scary, but it's what's gonna happen, and there's no avoiding the future. So making the best of right now the work can be better. You can get more from it when you're looking for the good in the right now instead of dwelling in the past or looking in the future. You just see more positive, and I've very much noticed that I have been able to see the good in what seems bad. With this like whole mandate a couple weeks ago, it was a big I felt like the hope that we had built up just fell to pieces. Like I was laying in my room and I was like, oh, no stage door tomorrow, and I was bawling. I was like, the hope is gone. But then I was like, we learned something yesterday and we're gonna learn something tomorrow, and I'm gonna see my friends tomorrow. I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna, so it's just like seeing the best in what seems negative